insight into the world of the North Korean troops fighting for Russia in its war against Ukraine. Kyiv Special Forces say the soldiers from Pyongyang are using brutal, near-suicidal tactics on the battlefield.
The soldier is injured, can hardly walk, but they spirit him away. Russian shelling intensifies to prevent capture.
Nick Payton-Walsh sent this report from Sumy in Ukraine, and we warn you there are graphic images throughout.
These are the first images on the ground of the capture of North Korean troops by Ukraine.
At 7:03 a.m., the first North Korean tank rolled into eastern Ukraine, and within seconds its turret was hurled 48 feet into a tree line. What was meant to be a $370 million show of force collapsed before it even began.
There's a unique challenge here. Ukraine wants to take captives, but the North Koreans seem to prefer to die. They shoot one here in caution. A wild prize pulled through their wires here from brutal fighting in Russia's Kursk region against a radicalized, near-suicidal enemy, but one who'd never seen drones in war before. In the distressing images that follow, they pull one injured Korean's leg, then realize he has a grenade. He detonates under his chin.
But how did Ukraine turn open farmland into a trap sophisticated enough to wipe out 17 tanks in just 4 minutes? Stick with us, because this is more than a battlefield lesson. It's a turning point in modern mechanized warfare. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video.
These notes from a soldier killed, really a snapshot of the mindset inside the Hermit Kingdom. Declarations of loyalty, even tactics on how to fight Ukrainian drones, and also the suggestion that their presence here is about helping North Korea.
His last words were to scream North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's name, South Korean officials say.
It's nothing, like 5 maybe.
We meet the Ukrainians who show us the faked Russian military papers he was carrying, suggesting he was from Russia's Far East.
It's a remarkable insight, but also a reminder of how this, the biggest land war in Europe since the 40s, is becoming more global.
From the sky, it looked like empty farmland, no different than the acres of soil that covered eastern Ukraine. Brown earth, narrow irrigation lines, and patches of grass shifting with the wind. But for 17 straight nights, Ukrainian soldiers worked under cover of darkness, digging not to plant, but to bury. They were not sowing crops, but preparing a line of defense capable of tearing through armored columns before a single rifle was raised. The work stretched across fields that in daylight looked bare and harmless. But under the surface, it bristled with hidden teeth, waiting for steel treads to press down. The decision was not made hastily. The 93rd Mechanized Brigade, under General Michalchenko, had studied this corridor for weeks.
Ukrainians filmed themselves taking DNA samples from the dead, which they say proved these were Korean. Ukraine says up to a third of the 12,000 here are already dead or injured. But also a glimpse of the fear they live under, how they inform on each other. Notes from an officer writing a critique of his fellow soldiers. And more are coming. Amur shows us the newish AK-12 rifle and backpack Russia gave the North Koreans. They are overladen with ammo, he says, but sometimes no body armor or warm clothes.
He knew it would be the chosen approach, and if that path was taken, his brigade would decide how it ended. The 93rd Mechanized Brigade had already built a reputation for measured fire and discipline. Michalchenko pushed that further, demanding a defense not of brute strength, but of patience. He wanted traps that could dismantle an armored thrust without his men even exposing themselves. This meant weeks of coordination, not only with Ukrainian engineers, but with foreign advisors who reviewed every layer. NATO engineers rotated through remote channels, redrawing schematics, calibrating field sensors, and making sure the network of mines would not be fooled by tricks. They accounted for everything. Sudden rainfall that might soften tracks, thermal smoke used to mask heat signatures, even the possibility of animals crossing at dusk. Each diversion was considered, Each countermeasure adjusted until what looked like field dirt held one of the most advanced kill boxes in the war. Meanwhile, Pyongyang's planners counted on speed. Their doctrine emphasized floods of armor moving at once, saturating fields until defenders ran out of positions and time. North Korean officers studied satellite photos and saw nothing. The soil was untouched, no trenches, no wires, not even markings of fresh vehicle tracks. They read it as a clear corridor. From space, it looked safe, and to them, safe was an invitation to roll through. Yet what they didn't see was that beneath the soil, Ukraine alternated layers of theft. The mines were not placed in predictable rows. One section blended pressure plates, the kind only heavy vehicle weight could trigger. Another mixed infrared sensors that woke with the signature of an engine block passing over. Alongside these, seismic devices listened to the vibration of armor movements, ensuring that whether the vehicles crawled, raced, or cloaked their heat signature, they would still be caught. It didn't stop there. Narrow slices of land were left deliberately open. Those strips were thin, just wide enough for a single tank column, giving the illusion of an unblocked trail. Any commander seeing those lanes would interpret them as accidental gaps or weak spots. In reality, they were funnels, pulling tanks deeper into the kill box. And high above, Ukrainian UAV operators watched in silence. Every thermal curve of the field was mapped live, every shift of the soil tracked, no patch going unseen. With high-resolution feeds glowing in their command vans, the farmland wasn't just mined, it had become a controlled battlefield, one monitored in real time, each square meter cataloged. The real danger came not with detection, but with timing. Whoever drove first would commit the entire column. The moment a lead tank rolled far enough, it sealed the group's fate. Once the first pressure plate detonated, splintering armor and triggering a chain of blasts, no retreat path remained. The narrow lanes trapped them. Backing out meant colliding with vehicles still pressing forward behind them. At 7:03 a.m., the first tank entered that illusion of a clear path. Its turret ripped free and vanished into the trees. Within 4 minutes, a total of 17 tanks sat burning or shattered, without Ukrainian gunners ever firing a shell. And yet this destruction was not an endpoint. It was only the first stage, the designed opening act before the brigade moved to launch a counteroffensive already rehearsed, one calculated to end not just the advance, but the morale driving it. The collapse of that armored push was not the result of Ukraine buying more weapons than Pyongyang. It came from discipline, patience, and engineering choices made long before the first tank appeared. Instead of answering brute force with brute force, the defense forced the armor to defeat itself, while Ukrainian crews stayed hidden. Modern battlefields are shifting away from mass formations toward deception and intelligence. Steel columns alone no longer decide outcomes. What matters is judgment, timing, and how well a commander can turn the enemy's strongest weapon into their weakness. Size is visible. Strategy hides until impact.